In the early years of the 20th century, deep in the hills of Manipur, a child was born who would grow to challenge one of the most powerful empires in the world. His name was Haipou Jadonang. He was born in 1905 in Puilan village in present-day Tamenglong district. At that time, the region was under British colonial rule. The people of the hills lived simple lives, closely connected to nature, tradition, and their ancestral beliefs. But beneath this calm existence, there was growing suffering. The British administration imposed house taxes, forced labor, and administrative control over tribal life. The people were burdened, not only economically, but also culturally. Their traditional systems were being slowly eroded. It was in this environment that Jadonang grew up. From a very young age, he was not like others. He was deeply spiritual and often withdrawn. He experienced visions, dreams, and a sense of divine calling. The people around him began to see him as someone chosen, someone who had a connection with the spiritual world. As he grew older, this spiritual inclination took a more defined shape. Jadonang began to preach a reformist religious movement known as the Heraka faith. This was not entirely new, but rather a purification and revival of traditional beliefs of his people. He emphasized the worship of a supreme God, moral discipline, and unity among the people. Through this spiritual movement, he aimed to strengthen the cultural identity of his people. At a time when external influences were increasing, Jadonang wanted his people to remain rooted in their own traditions. But Jadonang's vision did not stop at religion. As he traveled across villages and interacted with people, he saw the harsh realities of British rule. The forced labor system, known locally as Begar, compelled villagers to work without wages. Taxes were collected even from the poorest households. The authority of traditional leaders was undermined. Jadonang realized that spiritual reform alone was not enough. His movement began to take a political direction. He started speaking openly against British rule. He told his people that foreign domination was not permanent. He prophesied the end of British power and the rise of a Naga kingdom, a self-governing homeland for his people. This was a radical idea at that time. For the British authorities, such ideas were dangerous, but for the people, Jadonang became a source of hope. He began to organize his followers, especially among the Zeliangrong communities, the Zim, Liangmai, and Rongmei. His message spread quickly. Villages began to unite under his leadership. His influence was not based on force, but on faith, belief, and shared suffering. Jadonang's movement was unique. It was both spiritual and political. He did not simply call for rebellion, he called for awakening. He built sacred places and organized rituals that reinforced unity and identity. He encouraged people to reject forced labor and resist unjust taxation. His leadership gave the people a sense of dignity and purpose. However, this growing influence alarmed the British administration. They saw Jadonang not just as a religious leader, but as a political threat. His prophecy of a Naga kingdom directly challenged colonial authority. In 1931, the British decided to act. Jadonang was arrested on charges of murder, charges that many believe were fabricated to silence him. He was taken to Imphal and put on trial. The trial lacked fairness, and the outcome seemed predetermined. Despite the lack of solid evidence, he was sentenced to death. On the 29th of August, 1931, Haipou Jadonang was executed by hanging in Imphal. He was only 26 years old. His tragic moment was a tragic moment, but it did not end his movement. In fact, it transformed him into a martyr. His vision, his message, and his spirit continued to live on through his followers. Among them was a young girl who would later become a legendary figure, Rani Gaidinlu.
She carried forward Jadonang's movement, continuing both the Heraka faith and the resistance against British rule. Under her leadership, the movement gained further strength and recognition. Today, Jadonang is remembered not only as a rebel, but as a visionary leader. He was a man who combined spirituality with political consciousness. He understood that true freedom was not just about removing foreign rule, but about preserving identity, culture, and dignity. His life represents one of the earliest forms of organized resistance in Northeast India against colonial rule. Unlike many movements driven purely by politics, Jadonang's movement was deeply rooted in culture and belief. He showed that resistance can come not only from weapons, but from ideas, unity, and faith. His story is also a reminder of how colonial systems often suppressed local leaders who dared to challenge authority. Yet even in suppression, they could not erase the impact of such leaders. Haipou Jadonang's legacy continues to inspire generations. He is remembered as a spiritual reformer, a political visionary, and a symbol of Naga identity and resistance. His life teaches us that even in the most remote corners of the world, voices of courage can rise, voices that challenge injustice, and voices that shape history. Even after his execution in 1931, the story of Haipou Jadonang did not fade into silence. Instead, it began to grow louder.
Among the hills and valleys of Manipur and beyond, his name was spoken not in fear, but in reverence. To his people, he was no longer just a leader. He had become a symbol, a martyr whose sacrifice gave meaning to their struggle. In the years that followed, the movement he started did not disappear, it transformed. At the center of this transformation stood a young girl, Rani Gaidin Liu. She had been deeply influenced by Jadonang's teachings. She believed in his vision of spiritual revival and political freedom, and after his death, she carried that vision forward. Rani Gaidin Liu was still very young when she took up this responsibility, but her courage was extraordinary. She organized the people, she strengthened the Heraka movement, and most importantly, she continued the resistance against British rule. What Jadonang had begun as a spark, she turned into a flame. The British, however, had learned their lesson. They knew the danger of underestimating such movements, so they responded with force. Villages were raided, followers were arrested, and the movement was pushed underground. Yet despite all this, it survived, because it was not just a political movement, it was rooted in belief, identity, and a shared dream. Jadonang's vision of a Naga kingdom was not just about land, it was about dignity, it was about self-rule, it was about preserving a way of life that was being threatened. He had imagined a future where his people could live freely, guided by their own traditions and values. Even though that vision was never fully realized in his lifetime, it planted the seeds of political consciousness among the Naga people. Over time, his movement became part of a larger wave of Naga nationalism. Different leaders, different groups, and different ideas emerged, but one thing remained constant: the memory of Jadonang as one of the earliest voices of resistance. What makes his story unique is the way he combined spirituality with politics. He did not separate religion from resistance. For him, the revival of culture and the fight for freedom were the same struggle. He understood something very powerful: a people without identity cannot be truly free. His use of religion was not about division, it was about unity. Through the Heraka faith, he brought people together. He gave them a shared belief system, a sense of belonging, and that unity became the foundation of resistance. Today, when we look back at history, we often focus on large movements, famous leaders, and major battles. But the story of Jadonang reminds us that history is also shaped in small villages by ordinary people who dare to dream extraordinary dreams. In many ways, his life was short,
just 26 years, but the impact he created continues even today. His legacy lives on in the Haipou religious movement, the identity of the Zeliangrong people, and the broader history of Naga resistance. He is remembered as a mystic who saw beyond his time, a leader who united his people, and a rebel who challenged an empire. But perhaps more importantly, he is remembered as someone who awakened his people. Because true leadership is not about power, it is about awakening minds, igniting courage, and giving people a reason to stand. The hills where he once walked still stand today, the villages still remember, and the story of Haipou Jadonang continues to echo, not just as history, but as inspiration.